as you are well aware by now, when there is an opportunity here in our city for talmidim and Cheder to benefit from the visit of a guest, a distinguished guest, we'd like to utilize that opportunity for the benefit of our talmidim. And as we approach Chof Dalet Teves this Thursday, Alter Rebbe's Yartzeit, as we approach Yud Shevat, where within 30 days, and preparations begin, as you all are learning now, Gemara, Vav. How many days? Koydem Achag, Shloishim Yoyim. Koydem Achag. Chalik is good. Very good. You're going to be accepted automatically to the Yeshiva Gedola of Miami if you'd like to go. But as we stand within Shloishim Yoyim of Yud Shevat, it's an appropriate time to utilize the opportunity of the fact that tonight is the Siyam Rambam here in the city. And tonight's Siyam Rambam is being graced by the presence of the Rosh Yeshiva of the Yeshiva Gedola of Miami, a yeshiva in which many of your fathers may have learned, a yeshiva in which there are some of you who have had or have brothers learning or learned in the past in the yeshiva. And Rabbi Shapiro, the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Gedola of Miami, is not just someone who benefits the Miami community and the yeshiva there in Miami, but each and every chassid who has the schus to learn from the Rebbe's Torah, to learn Likutei Siches, especially particular volumes of Likutei Siches. If I'm not mistaken, Likutei Siches Chalok in Yud through Yud Dalet. They were primarily authored, put together for Hagah by the Rebbe, by Rabbi Shapiro. Before he went to Miami, he was involved in organizing the Vad La'afotz Siches in the beginning, in the early years, and the schus that we have to be able to learn a Sicha from the Rebbe, from the set of Likutei Siches, is one in which Rabbi Shapiro played an important leading role. And for him to come visit us here in Cheder and spend some time speaking with us and Preparaing with us, inspiring us, talmidim of Kitos Zayin and Ches, in honor of these days of Achana for Yud Shevat, is a privilege for all of us. I ask you to please rise and give you that attention.
I have to tell you, it's an honor for me to be here. I'm very impressed. Just looking at you, seeing, it says Chochma Sodom Toyer Ponov. It says the Chochma of a person you can see on his face. I look at the faces of you guys, of Bachim here, and you can see here that we have here a big group of Chassidische Bachim, and Mirz Hashem, this is the future of Lubavitch. So I'm very happy and honored to be able to be here and spend a few moments here sharing with you some ideas as Achana to Yud Shevat or Shaykhs to Chof Dalet Teves, and really it goes together with the same thing. We know that Yud Shevat, which is the day, the Yartzeit of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the day that the Rebbe accepted, became the Nasi of Chabad, and that's all a hemshech, that's all a continuation from the Alter Rebbe. So Chof Dalet Teves and Yud Shevat have a very, very strong connection. And I'm here to speak to you to add a little bit to the hachonas to prepare yourself to Yud Shevat. I just want to tell you, it's very important to prepare. If you don't make a hachana, if you don't prepare before, then when you get to it, it doesn't mean much. When you come to something and you're not prepared beforehand to understand what this is all about, and to put yourself, I'll put it into simple words, to put yourself into the mood, then when it comes, the day comes, and the day goes as if nothing happened. Even though great things happen, when Yud Shevat comes, whether you like it or not, and whether we're ready or not, great things happen. But to feel it, you got to prepare yourself. I remember, this is something that I just experienced that gave me this idea. My brother is the son-in-law of Rabbi Nissim Mendel, who was one of the Rebbe's secretaries. It was one sukkah when I came from Miami, And the Rebbe would give lekach every night of Sukkot for the orchim, with those that weren't there before Yom Kippur. So I was sitting in my brother's house, sitting and talking to Rabbi Mendel. Very interesting there, the secretary had all kinds of mices and he wrote the letters for the Rebbe, etc., etc. So I told him in the middle, you see, it's getting late, I have to go stand in line to get lekach for the Rebbe. So he said, I also have to go tonight to get lekach. I didn't go yet, so I'm going to go. I'm not going to have to stand in line probably, they'll let me go through, so you'll come with me so you won't miss. So I said, fine. So I sat more and talked, finally came, looked at the clock, watch, and said, it's time to go. So we got up and we went, came, we didn't have to stand in line, came straight to 770, knocked on the door in front, and they asked people who took care of, who's that? I said, Rav Nissen Mendel. Oh, they opened the door, and the Rebbe was standing right in front where the elevator is and giving out lekach. So it took a half a minute, probably 30 seconds. He walked straight over, I was right behind him, and the Rebbe gave him a piece of lekach, and I was with him. They let me in too because I was walking with him, and I got a piece of lekach, and I walked out. And as I walked out, I thought to myself, what just happened here? I got a piece of lekach from the Rebbe. It didn't mean much. If you stand before, and it takes you a half hour or an hour till you get there, and you start and you're getting ready and you're getting closer and you're getting closer, and you're almost, you see the Rebbe from far, and the heart starts hip and clapping, you notice the heart starts beating, you're getting close to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is going to give you lekach. Imagine the Rebbe is going to give you lekach, now you're going to get something for the Rebbe hashpah. And finally you go and you take a piece of lekach, it has such a great effect on you. But here, I went over in a second, and I walked up and got the lekach and I walked away. The Rebbe's hashpah comes no matter what. But the feeling I saw, no, next time I'm not doing it. I'm standing, I'm going to stand for an hour or whatever it takes. So that time it started me thinking, you know, that in Hava Achana, you come for your trot, and if you're not ready for it, then your trot comes, your trot goes. You don't even know exactly what happened, but if you prepare yourself, then you know exactly when it comes. You have a feeling for it, and it means a lot for us. Now, one of the things that we have to think about before Yud Shevat is the Rebbe himself and the Rebbe's Cheder. Even though we are all chassidim from the Rebbe, and to a chassid you don't have to explain the greatness of the Rebbe. Everyone knows the greatness of the Rebbe. But nevertheless, from time to time, it is good to talk about it. It is good to realize and to see what the Rebbe is, because it makes us a little bit closer. It makes us feel closer to what it is, because we think about it, because we take certain things for granted. You know what for granted means? You take it simple, and we don't think about it. I just want to tell you, the Rebbe, from when he was a child yet, and I can tell you from a little bit closer up, because my Zayde, my grandfather, was the Rebbe's teacher, was the Rebbe's Malamed. The Rebbe was born in the city of Nikolai, but he lived in which city? Who knows?
Paris?
I lived in Paris, but when he was a child, his father, Rabbi Leibel was the Rav of which city? Yekaterinoslav, right. Yekaterinoslav. My Zayde lived in the city of Yekaterinoslav. And the Rebbe's father asked him to become the teacher, the Malamed of the Rebbe, of all three brothers. So he was telling me how the Rebbe behaved when he was a child. Different than everybody else. He sat and learned always. When the children went out to play, he didn't go out to play. Then he tells me one thing. When the Rebbe was about 15 years old, the Rebbe's uncle, Rabbi Yitzchak's brother, was also a big Rav. He came to visit his brother, Rabbi Yitzchak. The Rebbe was 15 years old then, and he tells my grandfather, he says, you see him? He's pointing at the Rebbe when he was 15 years old. He says, this is your talmid. I want you to know that now, and he was a maven, he was a Talmud Chacham himself, a big Gaon himself. He spoke to him. I can tell you now that he's 15 years old, he's already Boki and Gan Shas with all the Tosfos. He knows by heart the whole Shas with all the Tosfos. And you all know it's not an easy task. You know what Gemara is? You know what Tosfos are? To be Boki and Gan Shas with all the Tosfos is something. So he says, the Rebbe, you said your Talmud is Boki in the whole Shas with all the Tosfos, and he's Boki in the whole of Lekutei Torah with all the ayins. Likutei Torah. You know what Likutei Torah is? And in Likutei Torah, that Tzemach Tzedek writes many times, I look into this place, references. Look into this Gemara, look into this Medrash, look into this Maimer, look into this Kabbalah Sefer. So he was Baki, he already knew by heart the whole Likutei Torah with all the ayins. So you see the Rebbe's goiness and godless from when he was a child yet. And you can imagine what went on when the Rebbe learned more and more. The Rebbe's time was so precious. He didn't waste 1 minute. He didn't even waste 1 second. He once wrote an article, somebody wrote an article in a newspaper about Lubavitch and about the Rebbe. And in the article he wrote that by the Rebbe, every minute and every second is precious. And the Rebbe checked over this article. He was Magiyah. And the Rebbe crossed out the word every second. In other words, the Rebbe was a Meide B'Mixas. Know what a Meide B'Mixas is?
Of course.
He admitted, because of his anivis, he was an onav, so he wouldn't admit that even every second is so precious by him. But we know that even every second was precious by the Rebbe. And he utilized it for learning and davening and helping Klal Yisrael. And that's what we saw by the Rebbe. By the Rebbe there was nothing in his life but the Eibishter, Cheder, and Yidden. And Chassidus, which is part of all that. So, because before Yud Shevat, it's time we should think who the Rebbe is and our connection to the Rebbe. And about learning the Rebbe's Torah. I'm sure you all have a shir or learn Likutei Sichos. Now I'm going to tell you how much time the Rebbe spent when it came to be Magiyah Sichos. When the Rebbe had to edit the Sichos. Because you know what the Cheder, how it went by the Rebbe spoke by Preparaing. And when he spoke by Preparaing, the Sichos that he spoke were written down by the people who had the title Chayzri, would repeat what the Rebbe said and would write it down. When they wrote it down, what is called when you take the Rebbe's word that he said by Preparaing and you put it down, you write it? Does anybody know the title for it, the expression? The person who did it was a Meniach, and what was written is called a Hanoche. The word Hanoche means to put down. When you put the Rebbe's words down on paper, it's called a Hanoche. But that's called Hanoche Bilti Muge. Bilti Muge means not edited by the Rebbe. And when you have a Sicha that's not edited by the Rebbe, there are a few problems here. Number one, not always do you remember exactly the way the Rebbe said it. Not always does the person who writes it understand it so perfectly, but you write it the way you understand. And also I have to tell you that when the Rebbe spoke, besides of what he said, there was so much more into the words that he said, more than he said much more. If you look up the sources, you look up the Gemaras, you look up the Midrashim, you look up the Maimorim that he quoted, and then you start understanding what the Rebbe said is much deeper than what it sounds like. And when it came to look at the Sichos, this is exactly what happened. It was written in a way that now that you look into deeper what the Rebbe said, and the Rebbe would check it over. And the Rebbe would spend sometimes hours on working on the Sichos. I once told by one of the maskirim of the Rebbe, he said he walked into the Rebbe, and the Rebbe was in the middle of being Magiyah the Sicha. And the Sicha was laying in front, and as he walked in, the Rebbe closed it. He was Magiyah ready, went over it again, picked it up, he gave it to him, and he said, Gibzei, give it to them. Ein l'dor sof. If I'm going to continue, I'll never end. Because the Rebbe could always add and add and add, because there is so much depth there. And even the people who wrote the Sichos, before they even gave it into the Rebbe to check over, had to look through all the wanted, the Rebbe wanted, look through all the sources, and see that there is more. And then the Rebbe would or agree that you understood it right or not, and he would fix it. There was one week that I was told that the Rebbe spent 10 hours in the week to be Magiyah the Sicha. Imagine, if by the Rebbe every second was precious, and he spent 10 hours, you know how much of himself the Rebbe put into the Sichos? How important it is for us to learn Likutei Sichos, to learn the Sichos that the Rebbe was Magia and put himself into it so many hours. Every second was precious. I was once standing outside some 70, and the Rebbe would sometimes open the window of his room. It was hot inside. Even in the middle of the winter, sometimes the Rebbe would open his window. There was a shade there, but the wind would blow, and sometimes the wind shook the shade. So I remember I was standing outside, and the window was open, and the shade shook. It was late at night, before the Rebbe went home. And you could see. I have to say, I probably shouldn't have done it, mixing into the Rebbe's private business, but I did look in, couldn't hold myself back. And I looked in and standing, looking, you could see, and I saw the Rebbe sitting there, without his sirtuk, without a hat. I just couldn't see, I saw a sefer, but I didn't see if he was writing something or just, but you could see, he was very, very engrossed, very fatif, looking into what he's doing. And then, usually when a person is very involved in something, and then when you finish, so what would I do? You close the sefer, you get up, you put on your coat, you go out. It takes a few minutes. I remember I saw the Rebbe get up from the seat, in a second walked over to the window and closed it, till we got a chance, it was a few bochrim of us, to run away, the Rebbe shouldn't see us, the Rebbe was outside already. Didn't waste a second. Because every second was precious. They say the Frierdiker Rebbe told Reb Shmuel Levitten, the Rebbe, when he davened for the Omet, his father passed away, Chof Dalet, he davened for the Omet, he davened with the Bochrim's minyan. And sometimes the Bochrim would come a few minutes late. And the Rebbe would have to wait to start davening. So the Frierdiker Rebbe told Reb Shmuel, who was the Mashpia of 770, that make sure that the Bochrim come on time. My son-in-law, the Rebbe, shouldn't have to wait, even though we're talking about 5 minutes. And he said, you should know that by my son-in-law, a minut is a yor. A minute is a year. You can imagine, what we can accomplish in a year, he can accomplish in a minute. So wasting his minutes is so important that you should make sure not to do it. So when we think about these things, that we are lucky, we are lucky that we have a very close shaykhs to the Rebbe. The truth is, every Yid in the world has a shaykhs to the Rebbe, right? The Rebbe, the Nosei Hador, he's the Nosei for the whole generation. Every Yid in the world has a shaykhs to the Rebbe. But we are the lucky ones that we feel our shaykhs, we feel our connection. We're Chassidim. So we have to, before Yud Shevat, we have to think about strengthening our connection to the Rebbe. We have to think in our mind, look how lucky we are that we were given the schus of being mekusher and close to the Rebbe. And therefore what we have to do is behave according to what the Rebbe wants. And what the Rebbe wants is not a secret. Everyone knows what the Rebbe wants. The Rebbe wants us to learn properly, not waste time, behave like Chassidish Bochrim, do the things that we're supposed to do, be Yirei Shamayim. And by doing that, we strengthen our iskashus to the Rebbe. Just want to mention a few things about different times by the Rebbe, which the Rebbe himself said concerning the Frierdiker Rebbe, that from time to time you have to remind yourself of the times that you were by the Rebbe by Preparaing, the times that you were by the Rebbe and Yechidus, and when you remind yourself that, it gives you more strength. And when you hear it from somebody, even though you weren't there, but from somebody who was there, and he relates it to you, it also brings it closer. There's a man in our shul who sits by all the Preparaing, and I always talk about the Yechidus and the Preparaing and everything. So once he tells me, I never saw the Rebbe. I never was by a Preparaing, but I feel like I was there. After hearing so much, I really live it. I think I was really there. So I'd like to tell you some of the things about, just for a few minutes, to chazer over some of the times that was there by the Rebbe years before. One of the things that didn't last for all the years, but was a special time by the Rebbe, a special time by the Chassidim, is what was known as the Nayem Nigen. Who could tell me what that means?
When the Rebbe introduced a new niggin?
When the Rebbe would introduce a new niggin. Who knows when it happened? Simchas Torah night. Right. So let me just describe to you how it happened, just to show you. I don't want to make you feel bad, just to show you what you're missing. But that gives you a certain feeling of connection that you also, almost like you were there. Simchas Torah, we have 2 days, right? Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. Shmini Atzeres is night, there is HaKofes. So there used to be HaKofes, always by the Rebbe HaKofes. The Rebbe was there, it was a special time of the year. The next night is Simchas Torah. Is again HaKofes. But the Cheder was that before HaKofes there was a Preparaing. There was a Preparaing that started at 9 o'clock and went on till about 12, 12:30. After the Preparaing, the Rebbe would leave leave the shul and would go back up to his room, and then about a half hour later, around 1 o'clock or something like that, he would come down to HaKofes. HaKofes, talking the years, in the ends of the Yuds, the beginning of the Chofs, HaKofes would last for about 2-3 hours. So the Rebbe started HaKofes at 1 o'clock, it went up sometimes up to 4. And this was a time of the year that, I would say, if somebody wasn't there by HaKofes, by the Rebbe, has no idea really what HaKofes is. Just like the Gemara says concerning Simchas Beis HaSheva, anyone familiar with the saying of the Gemara? Yes. Whoever didn't see Simchas Beis HaSheva never saw Simcha in his life. I can tell you, Misha Liro HaKofes by the Rebbe Liro HaKofes Miyomov. They have no idea what HaKofes really is. Then when HaKofes was over, the Rebbe would go upstairs to the 2nd floor, which was the apartment of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and there the Rebbe would eat the Yontav meal. So imagine if you went up around 4 o'clock, the meal was over, let's say, about 5. A while later, which must have been about 5:30, the Rebbe would come down again to the shul, downstairs. And the Rebbe would give out mashke to all those that took upon themselves to add in learning Chassidus. Anybody who took a hisofa, people who accepted upon themselves a hachlote to learn more Chassidus, the Rebbe said, I'm going to give a mashke. And a line would form of people standing there, and the Rebbe would give a mashke for a hisofa in Chassidus. While the Rebbe was giving the mashke, he would stop in the middle and he would teach a new nigun.